Hello everybody, back today with another Battle Brothers early game guide. Today we're going to be looking at the fundamentals of weapons and armor. Now armor is it's probably the easier one to get into. Armor has a armor has two mechanics to it: durability and fatigue. Now, so let's just look at this fucking helmet here. It's a 230 helmet, minus 15. I guess it's vision as well. Minus 15 fatigue, minus 2 vision. So characters start out with 7 vision. So some helmets, this one restricts it by 3, this one by 2, this one by 1, this one by none. Now, vision doesn't really matter except for characters who fire ranged weapons. Like a bow has a range of 7. But if you can't see shit because you're wearing a closed flat top helmet, you're only going to be able to fire 4, not 7. So the best helmet for a ranged character, not having DLC, is this. It's the 90 Helm. The 90 Helm is the best helmet that doesn't have a minus vision cost. If you have the DLC, I forget which one it is, it's the Sallet helmet with 120. There is also legendary gear, but I'm not going to be counting that. Like this wolf helmet is really good, but that's legendary. So you want the Sallet helmet here, the 120 helm, or you want the 90 helm. Now I call mostly it by the durability, because that's what armor goes by durability. A 90 helm doesn't protect you any more than a 300 helm does. Besides the fact that 300 helm will protect you from 210 more points of damage than the 90 helm does. So it's just the durability. It's not like it protects you more, it just protects you for longer, at the cost of more fatigue. So, you know, obviously I have a 300 helm here for minus 20. If I throw on this, my fatigue goes from 88 to 92. Just the way I have a perk that is rounding, so percentages will go up by a big amount there. So like I said before, the 90 helm is great. The 120 helm is great for archers. Archers' bows have a range of 7 or with a perk 8, so you don't want any minus vision. Now for crossbowmen have crossbows have a range of 6. It says right here. So the best helms with your normal 7 aim is a minus 1 helm. Now this is a great minus 1 helm. Is the 150 helm. 150 helm is the second best you can get. There are legendaries, not counting legendaries. There's a 160 helm that you can get from killing nobles called the Zweihander hat. It's this really cool like feathered cap. I'm not in a position where my game where I can kill nobles right now, but it's a 160 helm, and that's no DLC. So the 160 helm is the best you can get on a crossbowman. Now, there is a quirk or a trait called Eagle Eyes. Eagle Eyes gives you +1 vision. Now this is great because it means you can up the level of helmet you have. Because your crossbow doesn't shoot any fire any farther, but you can see farther. So this guy can have a -2 helm. This has a 190 helm. I kind of picked this because it looks cool. He could pick a fucking 230 helm, but it just weighs more. He could wear a 250 helm. But, so he still has a range of 6. And he can wear a 190 as opposed to this with the 150 on this guy. If I had an Eagle Eyes archer, I could wear a 150 on an archer. And then with the Eagle Eyes, the bow still only shoots 7, so then I still have my 7 range here, which is great. On frontliners, it doesn't fucking matter. Seeing 4, who the fuck cares? You're swinging 1 tile away, doesn't really matter at all. So that's kind of how armor works. Same thing with fatigue. You know, this legendary gear here has -27. This regular is -42, so you're going to have to play around with the durability of some armors along with the fatigue cost. You know, some legendaries might go to different people because they weigh less and that person can't afford to have normal heavy armor. So next let's go on to weapons. Now, weapons, there's a lot of different types of weapons. Let's look through with the specs here. Each one of these is a different type of weapon you can use. So let's start with maces. Maces are pretty good. They're actually really strong early game because maces can stun people. I have a mace dude here, but he doesn't. I don't think I have I have a morning star here that I just kind of have. So maces, every time you hit somebody, you induce fatigue on them, so they have less stamina they have stamina bars more filled, which is good. And maces also can stun people. So stunning is great early game, because if I have some dude and I want to steal his gear, he's gonna stab me as I try to kill him and take his gear. So if I stun him, he can't do that. So maces are great. They're pretty okay early game, but some of the late game enemies are stun immune, so I don't really use maces as much. Alright, next we have flails. Flails are great early game and shit beyond early game. So let's look at this flail. Ignores the melee defense bonus granted by shields. So when you start early game, everyone has bad accuracy, and enemies will have shields, so you can't hit anything. If you use a flail, you ignore the shield, so you actually gain accuracy. Other thing here is Lash. Flail, this always hits the head. Now you may think, why would I want to hit the head for extra damage? Well, here's your answer. You have a guy with, he has really good body armor, and you want to take his body armor. But you don't want to destroy it, because when you damage armor in a fight, it's less likely to be dropped as loot afterwards. So you smack him in the head a bunch, and then his body armor is undamaged, so you loot his body armor. That's great. But late game, like this guy has 98 aim. He doesn't need a fucking flail to go around armor. Or shield, he can just hit through it, because he's so accurate. And also, the flail kind of does shit damage, so I don't need it late game. Kind of ass. Alright, hammers. Hammers are really situational, and they're really bad early game. This is a legendary hammer, but nonetheless. So, hammers, they destroy armor, and they don't do a lot of hit point damage. So early game, they're fucking awful, because you want to steal everyone's armor, because you have nothing. So what you do with the hammer is you destroy the armor and don't damage the HP. So you're losing both ways, because you want the armor, and you do want to damage their HP, but not their armor. So hammers are bad early game. They're really good against some enemies, like big orc warriors have armor that can't be dropped as loot, and they're really hard to kill. So you want a hammer there, so then you can destroy the armor really quickly. Next we have axes. Now this is a good time because I have these in my inventory. Axes, there are different tiers of weapons. So you start with a shitty hatchet, and then you get, it does, look at this, 25, 40. Next, you get a hand axe, that's 30, 45. You get a fighting axe, 35, 55. So weapons have tiers to them. So let's look at the axe. Let's look at the fighting axe, I guess. Fighting axe does chop, does more damage when you hit the head, and axes can shield break. Axes are really great damage dealers, and that's about it. Shield break, I don't think much of shield break, because I'd rather just deal damage to them. I like some characters that don't use shields. When you don't use shields, you get 25% more damage with double grip. So, and there's a perk that lets you ignore more damage when you only have one-handed weapon and nothing else. So axes are great for this, because they already do a fuck ton of damage. That's why I like axes. Next are cleavers. I don't think very much of cleavers. They don't do a lot. They do bleed damage. But the way armor pen works is cleavers don't penetrate a lot of armor, so you don't bleed if you don't pen the armor. I do have a legendary orc cleaver on this guy, which wrecks shit. It's great. Another one of these duelist classes. Duelist based off the perk here. But other than that, I don't think very much of cleavers. Human cleavers aren't very good. Orc cleavers cost too much stamina, but legendary orc cleavers can make up for that. Other thing under cleaver is the whip. The whip can disarm. That can be cool. I don't use whips very much. I probably should. Swords are pretty bad. They're like very bad. Swords have, the thing about swords is they have a plus 10% chance to hit. So axes are bad early game, but good late game because they do damage. Swords are good early game because they have plus chance to hit on your low accuracy guys, and bad late game because they don't do any damage. They do have riposte, but that requires people to hit you. Like if you're not getting targeted, then your riposte does nothing. So I don't think anything of swords. Let's look at next. Daggers. Daggers are really good. I always have a dagger on every single one of my characters. So that's ranged ones. Because what daggers do, I've never built a dagger character. That's stupid. But stab is a shitty ability, but puncture is a great ability. Puncture completely ignores armor and does only hit point damage. And remember, we talked about this a little bit ago. When you damage armor on the battlefield, it has a lower chance to drop as loot. So if you give everyone a dagger, especially in the early game, and you puncture an enemy, then they get their armor at full durability, and you get the armor. So puncturing people down is the best strategy. Works all game. So great early game. Still good late game when you find someone with legendary armor. So I give everyone a dagger, because daggers don't have any fatigue cost. So you just kind of throw them on there, then you can switch them out at the end of a fight and stab somebody a bunch. And that works very well. Alright, next we have pole arms. There are a couple types of pole arms. We have, there are some pole arms with reach. This is a long axe. It is categorized as an axe, not a pole arm. But it has a reach of 2 tiles. Long axes are okay. I don't like them that much. There's the pole hammer, which is a hammer, but attacks 2 tiles. This is alright. There's the pike. The pike, there's a pitchfork, which is bad. And there's the pike, which is, okay, I don't have pikes. I think they're in this city right here. Yeah, the pike's okay, does 60 to 80. Doesn't do a lot of armor damage, so I don't think very much of pikes. With the best polearm is the billhook. The billhook, let's take a look. It does a ton of damage to armor and hit points. And the hook ability is kind of useless, but it just does a lot of armor damage and a lot of HP damage. And does the 2 tile thing, which is great. You know, get some legendary billhooks and you'll be rocking it. Polearms have a negative chance to hit adjacent targets, so you want them in the back line. Like this guy here has no melee defense, but it's melee attack. So I give him a billhook, so he stands behind this dude with 77 melee defense, uses his 100 melee aim to hit the guy, and doesn't get hit. It's great. Polearms are very, very strong. I love polearms. Next we have spears. Spears are great early game. Probably the best weapon early game, because their ability, thrust, has 20% plus 20% chance to hit. When your guy has 54 aim, you now have, what's that, like 67 aim or something? 68 aim? That's so good, because you need to hit stuff. Spears are pretty bad late game. I use spears on my mammoth tank classes, because they just level melee defense. That's it. So to counteract the fact that their aim is awful, I give them a spear, so they have some chance to hit. Spear wall, the next ability, is great. So a spear wall will create a zone of control around you, and if an enemy walks into that, you can stab them, and if you hit, they get repelled back. So that can be useful. Spears are okay. They really fall off late game though. Crossbows are great for these hybrid classes that like to do melee as well as get some ranged ability in there. They're not better than bows because they have 6 range, and a bow with bow spec gets 8 aim, and the bow can fire twice and the crossbow can fire once. So crossbows are good on characters like this who also have melee, so they can just like walk in and then switch to a pike or a billhook and then just stab people. It really works well. The bow, on the other hand, dedicated archers are so phenomenal. I've heard things in the Warriors of the North DLC, archer throwing class hybrids like archer throwers are very strong. This map I play on was pre-DLC. I got it before I got the DLC, so I don't have the enemies that is good against aren't in this game, so I can't comment on that. And I don't use throwing weapons like fucking ever, so I can't comment on throwing weapons that much. I don't think they're very good, but check out other people's opinions on those. But that's kind of it. So early game, you always want daggers to dagger people down and puncture them. So important. You want spears for the plus accuracy, swords less so because they give you less accuracy, and maces because of the stun. Late game you want, and flails early game as well. Late game you still kind of want maces. You want axes. You want more polearms than you had early game. Early game you probably have a couple, but you want polearms late game. You want probably two-handed weapons. Oh, Matt, take a look at some two-handed weapons. Two-handed weapons, you have the Great Axe, which is really strong. The Big Mace, the Bonk Mace, which is a DLC weapon, but I love the Bonk Mace. You can stun people for 2 rounds. You got the Bonk Hammer, which just shatters armor. And two-handed weapons have AoE, so two-handed is really good. The two-handed sword's good. Has a couple of different AoE options. Very strong. The axe has a 6-tile hex AoE. It's a hex grid, so you all hexes around you. Very good. There's like a two-handed spear as well that I don't like very much. Let's look. There's a two-handed flail that I don't like very much because for the same reason I don't like one-handed flails. There's some other swords, like orc weapons, goblin weapons, ancient undead weapons. All the different enemy types have their own weapons. But the ones I talk about that I really like late game, two-handed weapons are good. These duelists are good with their legendary weapons. Crossbow billhook hybrids are good. Whips are okay. Bows are okay. You kind of just want a mix of duelists and two-handers, I think, late game, and you give some spears to your tanks. That's about it. I hope this has been helpful. Armor in weapons are really quite simple. Weapons are more, there's a lot of different things you can use, but at the end of the day, you just want damage, and duelists and two-handers are what are going to give you big damage. So, I'll see you guys around. I hope you enjoyed this. Peace.